Hello and Assalamu alaikum everybody. My name is Saba Syed and I myself am an international public speaker and an author of an award-winning book. And I had just recently the honor to join Houston Professional Women Organization at Umber's invite as the program coordinator. And this is going to be my first event coordinating for Houston Professional Women Network. Houston Professional Women Organization is one of the most empowering organization for the women for Houston and Dallas, that we cover both Houston and Dallas area. Houston Professional Women Organization is the platform to promote and empower all professional women, young professionals, and young leaders by acknowledging their contribution in the community. Houston Professional Women Organization focuses on economics and social and equal access for all women and give them an opportunity to be able to come out and to show what they are leading, how they're leading their lives and how they're making a difference in the community and what they can contribute to empower other women, because we believe that we as empowered women have every right and opportunity to empower other women as well. And today we have the honor to be joined by a very successful and ambitious woman, Honorable Judge Juli Mathew. Judge Mathew was recently elected to County Court at Law 3 in 2018 after having been an associate municipal judge in Arcola, Texas, and a practicing attorney for 15 years with experience in mass tort, civil litigations, probate, and criminal matter in Fort Bend and surrounding counties, including Harris, Montgomery, Galveston, and Brazoria. Good morning, Judge Mathew. I think
Good
you're
morning. Yeah. Good morning. Sorry, your voice was on mute.
Yeah.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with the Houston Professional Organization, as well as meeting you, Saba, and always the pleasure of seeing Amber.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So Judge Mathew grew up in Philadelphia and attended Penn State University before attending Delaware Law School for her Juris Doctorate. So Judge Mathew, how was your experience being in Philadelphia and then the Penn State University, and especially as a woman and going into this field, which is, I think, a little unusual for South Asian women, because in our families, parents are always asking the daughters to join, to just be the doctors. So how was your experience with the family and also as, in the community?
So when I came to the U.S., I was a child. And so growing up, I mean, in the 80s in Philadelphia, I think, there were some issues and, the reality of people not being used to people of South Asian descent and not knowing other than what they see on TV about Save a Child or one of those networks, and only see the negative aspects. So you are, you're getting whatever their perception is, and, all those things. It was not an easy time period to grow up. I think when I joined elementary school, I was the only, South Asian there. I don't even recall an Asian American there in my elementary school. And in high school, there were a few. So the population continued to grow, and I think that got easier. Penn State is also very much, at that point when I went, there was 48,000 students, and I think there was, the university only had about 2.5% of African American, and I think less than 10% of Asian American. So, from when you look at what the United States was at that time period to other ethnic minorities other than African American, it wasn't a very huge number. So to live in a place like Sugar Land in Fort Bend County, where it's the most diverse place in the U.S., it's pretty amazing. And my parents, of course, I don't think they necessarily wanted to be a lawyer. I don't think they were happy with my decision. And I honestly got that for a long time after as well. My parents thought that was not, it's not conducive to have a family life or children, and your schedule is going to be very hectic if you become an attorney. So they were thinking, I don't think they wanted me to be a doctor. They were, hoping a teacher or something along those lines. So I definitely got pushed. My mom was a nurse, so in those type of things. But I definitely, wanted to at some point go into politics. And so that was the route that I chose.
Wow. Wow. So that's been a journey for you to get there finally where you are right now.
Yes.
And how do you feel about that? Like looking back in hindsight where it started, your journey, and now where you stand, like, for us to inspire us, or like the younger girls who are starting their lives, like how do you feel now at this point?
So I'm going into my third year on the county bench, and I absolutely love it. And it was never an easy decision. Like, I wanted to run for judge in 2013 for the 2014 race, and I chickened out. And so, if you have a hope or a desire or a dream, go for it, because there's going to be lots of people who are going to tell you you can't do it. There's going to be lots of people giving you negative things. Even I was I was just thinking back about the time that I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she's another attorney, and she said, well, I'm glad you're running because you can get your name out there, and the next time when you run again, people will be familiar with it. So there was no hope or even thought that I was going to win. And so to be able to actually, when I sit back on the bench, I'm very grateful to God when or even I'm walking through my courtroom, I'm walking out the door and I look back and I see my name, and I'm beyond grateful for what I have.
It is a moment of pride for all the South Asian community, regardless of our, minor religious differences or whatever we are, especially as women and from South Asian community. I just want to tell you that it is really a moment of pride for all of us. So was it an inspiration for you to go into this field? Somebody inspired you, or was it something that you just, you wanted to do?
So my dad had a business that went badly, and he was taken advantage of by his business partner. And so at that point where it's dawned on me, if you know the law, that people cannot take advantage of you. And that's not always the case, but the thing is, at least you know what your rights are, where you stand legally. And it's kind of funny when I walk into a place, when I walk into a restaurant, when I walk into a shopping mall, all I see is lawsuits everywhere. Like, oh, that's a violation. That's this. Sometimes you're in that frame because of the training that you have as to torts or, somebody falling, tripping, any of those things. It's like, oh, why do they have it there?
We have to be careful what we might do that.
That's, knowing my rights as a person, being able to protect my family, being able to protect the general public. I took a note to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and I want to be, there was a few years ago in regard to people who are naturalized citizens, their citizenship being revoked if there's a mistake in the application. And when I heard that, I was like, well, that doesn't sound constitutional. Is it discretionary? Who determines this? How do they come to this determination? And with the Muslim ban, there's all sorts of things that influenced my decision to become a judge. And what's out there, we want to be able to protect. You have certain rights, inalienable rights as a U.S. citizen. Nobody should be able to tread upon those rights. And the judiciary is that last stance, the separation of powers, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. Really, the buck stops with the judiciary. So, I'm grateful for where I am, and it's an amazing experience.
It does sound really empowering just hearing about it. So I can only imagine what it feels like to actually have that. That's amazing. So I wanted to ask you, what were your challenges as an immigrant, and especially as a woman in this profession? Like, from the time you stepped into this field, what were like the challenges that you still remember to this day?
I traveled in pretty much all of like Southeast Texas for court. And it was for example, one of the counties nearby, not that far off, but there was no one else, no person of color in that courtroom when I walked in, and I was being stared at. People can never categorize me. There's a lot of people who think I'm African American. There's people who think I'm mixed, or they'll think I'm Hispanic, but they can never pit me as to what country I'm from. So they're always trying to figure that out when they see me. And I think, just the fact of people getting used to someone who's not like them showing up in court. And I think it's changing. Even in the Harris County area, when I was a practicing litigator, there weren't that many females when I first started out in the courtroom. And I think most females go the route of transactional attorneys. And I think that has changed drastically. The judge prior to me on the bench was the first female judge on the bench in Fort Bend County. And so there's now an equal number of females, an equal number of males. So finally, I think the change is being made. I think people are seeing and working towards it. I mean, so I'm excited for what the future holds for my 3 daughters, because hopefully there will be no glass ceiling at that time that they have to shatter, and that it's already been broken through by generations before them.
I really hope so. And so speaking in that aspect, how much support did you think you received from this, like our South Asian community?
So I definitely did get support from the South Asian community. And so I really had people who work hard in the background, who got out there, who asked for votes, and who pushed me through. Running as a Democrat in the 2018 race, when no Democrat had won in Fort Bend County, was not easy. So there were a lot of people, there were a lot of negatives, but there was a lot of positives as well. I met a lot of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions. And, I can pretty much tell you about any Muslim holiday at this point. I can tell you about Hindu holidays. I can, growing up as a Christian, you're only exposed to the Christian holidays, but I can tell you about Parsis. I can tell you, the number of people that I have met on this journey that I'm on, it's pretty extraordinary. And I would have never had the opportunity or the exposure that I did as running for this bench, as well as being a judge. Those people that I came across, they were definitely there for me. They definitely voted for me. They definitely told their friends and family members to vote, and financial support as well. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
That's amazing. So you're not only empowering women, but you're also playing a role of bringing, the different minorities together as one community. That's a really wonderful place to be in.
We need to do that. And more and more, there's some social media accounts that I've seen just, even within the South Asian community, I see a lot of division being created by religion. And I don't think the only way for us to be able to have a voice is if we stay cohesive as a community. And I really want to emphasize that within the South Asian community. I see, people making statements that are against one religion or another. And really, there's nothing, religion should not be, as much as it's close to our heart, it should not be that point that stops us from reaching out across the aisle to someone else that may be of a different religion and trying to figure out, hey, how can we work this out? What can we do to make the change?
So. That's true. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head by saying that, the religion that we hold so close to our hearts, it should bring our hearts together. It should humble us and, make us more tolerant. And
humanity should be more important as how we see each other, how we take care of each other. If you remove the skin, if you remove maybe some of the flesh underneath, that we're still, when at the end of the day, we're the same. There's nothing different about us. God has created us all the same exact. There's absolutely nothing when you look at the skeletal structure that determines what our race is, what our religion is, none of it.
That's so true. That's so true. And we're so glad to have you over at this position. And, it's an honor to have you serving the community and being in that position and empowering people, not just a woman, but everybody around you. So on a more personal level, how, like, how do you balance your work life and you have kids, and you're raising them yourself, so involved as a mother as well. So how do you work your work life with your family life?
Um, I can tell you that it's not easy. And there are days that I am struggling to figure out how I'm going to do it today. My parents are extremely helpful. My husband definitely works a lot of hours. He leaves usually 7:15 in the morning, and I don't see him till probably 7 something at night. I have an older daughter who's also 16 who helps quite a bit. So it's a juggle. It's a struggle. It definitely is not easy. And my middle child, who's a kindergartner, is on the autistic spectrum. And so I definitely have to, and you are expected to be at events, you're expected to be talking to people, thankfully with Zoom, it was a little bit easier, but there's a lot of things you have to juggle, and it takes a lot of energy, but thankfully by God's grace, I am able to handle it. But there are days that I don't want to do anything. I'm tired, I'm exhausted.
I'm sure. Wow. So that is, your hands are always full. So what advice would you give to the young girls who are starting their career? They're trying to choose a path in their lives, deciding their major and what they can do in future, being a woman, committed to your family and to your work. And as you said, it's not easy. There are days where you're just overwhelmed. Any short piece of advice for the girls to continue on their path and to what they should be looking forward to in future?
So pretty much if you have a desire, go for it. Sky should be the limit. Absolutely. And if you don't know, it's always that, should I not, can I not, those type of questions is what stands there. And you never know unless you try. So I tell my daughter the same thing. What's the harm in just taking a risk? What's the harm? As long as you're, obviously certain parameters, you're not hurting yourself, you're not hurting another person. In careers, I think if you want to do something, go for it. I wanted to be a journalist at some point. I wanted to be on TV as a newscaster. So Philadelphia had a news station, I think it was like NBC 10 there, that had a tryouts for a traffic reporter. And that desire was in my heart. I tried out. I didn't get it. I knew that was not it for me. So I didn't lose anything. But I have an experience to say I tried out to be a newscaster. Right.
You did.
A traffic reporter to start out with.
You did pursue your dream of being a newscaster, and when it didn't work out, it didn't stop you from moving further.
No, I tried something else, and here I am.
Wow, that's really inspiring, because a lot of us, we have one dream, and if we try it out and it doesn't work, we kind of give up, so that's really inspiring.
Even right now, for example, as much as I like speaking in public, there's still that tinge of oh, I have, that butterfly or whatever right before I go on stage. And then there are days that I have an interview that I get off and I'm like, oh, that was horrible. So not every day is going to be my perfect 10. Not every day is going to be amazing. Some days I'm going to be horrible, and some days I'm going to do my best. And so just take it as is. Life is not ever perfect. It's always evolving and changing.
Wow, thank you so much. Just talking to you in these few minutes has inspired me so much. So, so that, I guess, leads me to my next question. How is what is your mentorship style if you are mentoring people? How are you as a mentor?
I don't know how I am as a mentor, because I think you're asking the wrong person. But I hope, I'm very straightforward. I tell people exactly what my thoughts are or what my experiences are. I have no problem sharing those things. I've had failures in my life, and I had success stories. We are a combination of all of those things. So I have no problem bearing myself open for somebody else to learn something from and moving on from that.
Wow. So Judge Matthew, as a last question, I want to know you as Juli Mathew, as a woman, as someone who's so inspiring, but also has you're as an individual, as a personal life. What are you like? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? How are you as a person, if you wanted to describe yourself? Because we see you on a professional scale, there's Honorable Juli Mathews. And so now if I want to get to know you on a personal level, how would you see yourself like?
So I like to think I'm extremely down to earth. I am sincere.
You are.
Thank you. I am sincere and I'm loyal to a fault. And, but, I'm still working. I do have a short temper at times. So I do work on that. Sometimes my kids drive me crazy and they get the worst of it at times. But I strive to be a good mother. I strive to be a good wife. I strive to be a good daughter and a friend and a sister. So it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect, but I'm a work in progress. I love traveling. I used to love cooking, but my time is limited. So sometimes it's not one of my things that I enjoy doing these days. But I am just a normal person. I don't think there's anything extraordinary. I do love meeting new people. I have to say that. I do love finding out and learning about people and cultures. So we do travel quite a bit, but Corona has stopped that. My husband and I, the last trip we took to Guatemala and Belize was right when COVID was in the horizon. And then we're taking a small trip shortly as well. So we love traveling. And that is me in a nutshell.
Wow. I am so glad that I joined this organization and you were the first person I had the opportunity and honor to interview because you really are a very inspiring person. And, I will say this even in my first meeting with you is that it does, your humbleness reflects in the way you just spoke about yourself because how I see it as an outsider is you are just, a regular immigrant girl from South Asian community who took a different path in her life and you moved forward with it even though you did not have, obviously much family support, which we all can relate to that, whenever we want to take a different path, there's not much family because they get worried, our parents. But you stood your grounds and you pursued a career which is not very common among the South Asian girls. And not only you did, but you made a name for yourself and you're still working towards more and more achievements. It's a true inspiration. And I hope that when we put out this interview, then, just like you have inspired me, you inspire all the other people, all the other women, not just the women, but even men, young girls and boys equally, to pursue their dreams and to do something with their lives. Your humbleness, your tolerance, your passion for equality and bringing the community together really reflects in the way you carry yourself around. Honorable Juli Mathew, Judge Juli Mathews, I'm really, really glad that we had the honor to have you over for this organization. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us and, I know you were busy today and even then you took the time out, which just goes on to reflect your, your sweet and humble personality. And I am so glad that I had the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Saba. I truly enjoyed speaking with you and I hope we get to meet in person.
I do too. Thank you so much, Juli Mathew, for your time.